So on Alligator Alcatraz, just understand what happened. It's running. Deportations are continuing. You had a very partisan judge that issued a ruling saying that that DHS couldn't send any more there until, whatever. So they appealed. We're doing that. So DHS hasn't sent more, but all that stay stuff, that's happening right now. We stand ready, willing, and able to accept who DHS sends. Remember, our role at the state, we don't conduct the actual deportations. We process, stage, and then DHS takes them away. And because we've had Alligator Alcatraz, you've had thousands and thousands of deportations that might not otherwise have happened because they didn't have enough room to be able to do it. So we're ultimately going to win that fight. Now, I also announced that we had demand even beyond Alligator Alcatraz, and so we have this deportation depot up in Northeast Florida, Baker County, right next door to Jacksonville. So that'll be able to hold another 1,000 to 1,500. Now, one of the reasons why we did Alligator Alcatraz is because that's an airport down there. And so they built the temporary facilities with federal reimbursement. I mean, I hear people say, oh, Florida is out this money. No, we spent money and we will get reimbursed. And getting illegals out, that saved you money because they are costly if they go to the medical care or all this other stuff. But we're getting reimbursed for all that stuff. So Florida will clearly benefit from a taxpayer perspective. I don't think there's any question about that, given all that's said and done. But there's the runway right there. So you go a couple thousand feet and DHS can pick them up and go. So that was why it was really attractive from an efficiency perspective. Baker County is not far from the Lake City Airport. It's just going to require loading people and driving. It's like maybe 10 minutes down the road, and then they can be flown out of Lake City. So that will happen. That will be good. We're also working because we were up in Panama City, talking with law enforcement. And, you're in the Panhandle, sending to Alligator Alcatraz, that's a long way. Even sending to the deportation depot in North Florida, that could be 3 to 5 hours depending on where you are in the Panhandle. And so, they were like, is there a way we can get a facility that's going to be closer to us? And so we said yes. So we're actually in the process of figuring out how we can set up a Panhandle pokey, and we're going to have that in the Panhandle. And so the mission continues. And so I think like some of the report act like, oh, well, DHS isn't sending any more there, therefore, no. DHS hasn't sent us any more since that judge ruled, but this week we're applying to have that decision stayed. Here's what they did, this is so outrageous. So this is a Collier-Dade airport, and it's actually located in Collier County. Dade does run it, but it's actually in Collier. So it's kind of, we're the uninhabited part of southern Florida. And so you have that there. It's been there for decades. So we said, we had been working with the feds on all the immigration stuff. We have all these 287G. We've done more to facilitate the president's agenda on this than any other state by far. But the one thing they kept saying is, look, we don't have enough DHS facilities to stage and to process before they're sent back to their home countries. And it's not as simple as just, hey, you go, like there is a process, like they are getting due process. Now, some of these people have already had due process. They've already ordered to be removed, and yet they still haven't followed that order. So it may vary depending, but the bottom line is you do need something. So that's why they said, is there a way you can expand capacity? Well, Sheriff Lima, they've got criminals, normal criminals they've got to deal with. Like, we can't say like, oh, the local jails should just have to do this. Now, they have done it to a certain extent, but there's definitely a limit to that. Our state prisons, we have people get convicted, go to state prison. And so we're like, okay, we'll work to do it. So we did the one at Dade Collier Airport, Alligator Alcatraz, because you have the runway right there. And it was our view, once they were there, they weren't going to escape, and then they could be flown out. And I think that has actually worked very well. And they have picked up the pace of deportations. So people sued, and they said, oh, no, you can't do that. Why? You didn't do an environmental impact statement. That's what it was. That was the crux of the suit. Now, the state, we don't have to do a federal environmental impact statement. when we're doing business on our own property. Like, we don't have to do it. It's not a requirement. The federal government does have to do it when they're doing certain things, and that is law, and I think it gets abused, but it is the law. So, we didn't do it because we're not required to do it. What the judge said was, well, since you're doing this to help the feds, it really is a federal facility, and therefore they didn't do the environmental impact statement. So even if somehow we don't get a stay, DHS, they can generate an impact statement. The impact is negligible because it's all self-contained on the existing airport footprint. We're not doing sewage or any of that. They truck the waste out. They bring all this in. We obviously weren't going to do anything that was going to undercut all the stuff I've done for Everglades restoration. And so that was all buttoned up. So that's what the judge, you didn't do that. The federal government is really running it, even though they're not. Therefore, they had to do it. So I do think we're going to win that fight, and I think that we'll have that. But we're also going to have Deportation Depot. We Panhandle, Pokey, and then we're also looking in other areas. And so I think the net of this, there's a demand to have way more than just Alligator Alcatraz. I mean, the reality is, if this judge's ruling stands, even if we continue with these other facilities, DHS will not have enough space. It will be harmful to the efforts. It'll be harmful for the state of Florida. So we're very confident that they're going to do. And DHS, I think their position is, look, if a judge tells us not to send to that facility, then we'll send them other places. And that's fine. That's their prerogative to do. But it's still being operated. We're going to, and a lot of people have been taken out of there for sure. So I would just say stay tuned on that. The mission continues. We are going to ensure that the laws are enforced and that people here are illegally, particularly those who have already been ordered to be deported. We've got 70,000 people in the state of Florida alone that have final deportation orders that haven't been executed. Obviously, Biden wasn't executing any of this stuff. So just that, we need. But you need infrastructure to do it. So I think that that's all going to work out. The reality is, it's funny because, you have like a narrative when it was set up, and a lot of people in legacy media, but also on the left, this is so bad. It's so bad that you have this. Then when a judge says don't send any more, they're like, see, you're not accepting anymore. That's so bad that you're not getting. I'm like, which is it? Did you not want it, or do you want it? Do you want it to keep operating? So the mission continues. We'll supplant any hurdles that we do, but ultimately we're there to facilitate the mission, to help the federal government using our own facilities, using our own personnel or contract, however they end up doing it. But everything we're doing on this mission, everything we're doing is reimbursable from FEMA. So, Biden was reimbursing the hotels for housing illegal aliens in Manhattan. The Trump administration is reimbursing states for helping with the detention and processing prior to them being repatriated to their own country. And I think that's the way it should be. Yes?
When is Deportation Depot expected to be operational?
We will, it is momentarily. We will have an announcement on that maybe pretty soon. We may, you'll find out pretty soon, I think. I mean, we said it would, the runway we said when I announced it is basically the timeline that we'll be on.